Thank you very much. Really pleased to be able to speak with you today. I'm going to give a sort of a brief intro. I'm a data scientist at Coursera. I work in our insights and research vertical. So I'm focused on using Coursera's data to inform the labor markets and other policy options that may exist out in the world. And so I'm really pleased to be able to speak to you today about becoming a data-first organization and our experience on the data science team at Coursera. After I do my little bit, I will be handing it off to Sorabh, who will be walking through the operationalization of a lot of these things with online learning and hands-on learning. So we're really excited to be able to present to you today. And without further ado, let's dive right in. So I want to first begin with a brief introduction to Coursera. We're a global learning ecosystem made up of learners, educators, and institutional partners. As of March of this year, Coursera has over 80 million individual learners, 160 university partners, 60 industry partners, and we collaborate with institutions such as businesses, governments, and universities to transform the workforce, whether that means citizens, employees, or students. And today's talk will be informed by our experience working with these organizations, from businesses to governments to campuses, and really understanding their skills transformation problems. So I want to set the stage briefly in sort of an abstract way and then hone in on some of the specifics. The world is changing at a faster and faster clip, driven primarily by globalization and technology. And we're all feeling the pressure, especially in today's times. Things like data and automation are altering how businesses operate and how we live our lives. And this has only been accelerated by the COVID pandemic. The bad news is this kind of change is going to create serious dislocation and is creating serious dislocation for many businesses and many individuals. Thomas Friedman talks about it in his most recent book, Thank You for Being Late. He says the rate of technological change has surpassed our ability as humans to adapt. And this is threatening humanity and society as we know it. He says we need to learn faster and that we need to bend the curve of human adaptability. The good news is data and technology can also be a part of the solution. And so let's talk about some of those opportunities. As a company, when I think about being data first, I think about three things: making better decisions faster, using data to drive up revenue growth, and using data to improve margins. I won't belabor this too much because I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but briefly before we dive into how to make this happen, let's understand what these things are. On better decisions faster, data provides a common language and optimization function, the resulting alignment which can support high quality decisions at the lowest possible levels. This includes both fully automated and human decision-making. A quick example from Coursera: lots of different activities a learner can take on the site, but we sort of want to guide learners to the optimal learning outcomes for them. And so we use our event-based lifetime value models, and to maximize the long-term revenue of our consumer learners, we use ranking algorithms to find the optimal courses, et cetera, et cetera. On revenue growth, of course, you can sell your data as a way of making revenue, but often there are much more sophisticated and frankly, more profitable ways to grow revenue. You can find customers more efficiently. You can delight them with digital experiences. We see a lot of personalization and discovery, and not just in marketing, but also in personalized learning interventions, which identify and intervene at-risk learners to yield double-digit improvements in the rate at which learners progress through their learning and stay on the platform. Finally, we focus on improved margins. So this is about delivering your services with a higher quality and lower cost by applying data science across the supply chain, servicing, and inventory management, and more. At Coursera, for example, we use machine learning to accelerate support staff, serving up predictions of who needs support with very human-readable features and why that person needs support. This drives down servicing costs and allows us to keep the price low while still delivering strong margins. So I want to just take a moment and pause and ask, what is being a data-driven not? So being data first is not just about having a lot of data. Data volume is necessary, but far from sufficient. When we're out in the field talking to companies, mostly CDOs, CTOs, CIOs, but also heads of learning and development, we see a huge disconnect. More precisely, a huge missed opportunity, where some of the biggest companies in the world with the most data, and therefore the most data opportunity, are often doing the least with their data. On the other extreme, being data-driven is not just about employing tons of data scientists. Again, having technical talent is necessary, but far from sufficient. So what's the secret sauce? What's the magic that makes it work well? At the macro level, capturing the value of your data requires having the right platform, people, and processes in place. Platforms include the infrastructure and tooling to enable efficient use of data. With the proliferation of high-quality cloud providers, this is becoming less and less of a blocker, in particular once organizations are trained on how to leverage those platforms. Although that last piece, including adoption, is often non-trivial and requires some work to get the workforce over the hump to being able to adopt these tools. On people, I think more than about the right people, it's people with the right skills. Do your data scientists know the methods they need to create value from the types of data they have? Could be textual data, could be image data, and so on. And do your data scientists know how the tools they need to create value? Do your data scientists know how to use the tools they need to create value efficiently with the latest technologies and the latest platforms? But it's not just about the data scientists. It's also crucially about the partners and internal customers of data science within an organization. For example, do marketers know enough to partner with data scientists effectively to communicate quantitative insights and learn from A/B tests and launch personalized campaigns, for example? Finally, on processes. It's about how you operate as a company to infuse data across decision-making, products, and services. And that often starts with the people, often more precisely with the leaders of a company. Several of the core challenges we're seeing in the market tie back to shortages in data skills. Organizations lack the right skills, and when they lack the right skills, this can slow down everything from effective adoption of new platforms to effective implementation of data-driven processes for decision-making. To give you some statistics on this, 35% of CDOs are reporting that poor data literacy company-wide is a top barrier to achieving their goals. So this isn't just data literacy within a tech organization or a data organization, this is data literacy across the company. And data-related roles are becoming increasingly hard to hire for and are remaining open for a third longer than the market average for other roles. And educators can't be the only ones responsible for reskilling the workforce. Employers play a critical role in fulfilling the need for lifelong learning. According to the World Economic Forum, 95% of employers plan on retraining existing employees in response to the shifting skill needs during the pandemic. According to Deloitte, 73% of individuals consider employers responsible for workforce development. Retraining and upskilling is the favored way to bridge the skills gap, taking existing folks and helping them develop incremental skills. This is especially critical given the pace at which data tools, technologies, and methodologies are evolving. The great news is that reskilling and upskilling isn't just a win for business, it's a win for staff as well, many of whom are worried about both automation and the shifting relevance of their skills. Employees are crying out for high-quality learning opportunities, with over 3/4 of adults saying they would learn new skills or completely retrain to improve their future employability. And retraining doesn't just benefit those employees. The existing workforce has extensive domain knowledge in your business, and that means when equipped with the right digital skills, these existing retrained employees can be more effective than an outside hire who may only have expertise in the data or technology skills, but not the specific business knowledge of your existing company. So what excites me most about data science is the opportunity it affords each of us to have an impact in the areas we care about. So today, for the core portion of my talk, I'm going to share 3 stories of how we're using data at scale to solve challenges in education at Coursera. The first is about helping learners stay motivated and engaged. The second is about helping teachers better support learners. And the third is about ensuring individuals can show what they know so that they can be rewarded for what they've learned with job opportunities. One big problem we see in learning, both on campuses and online, is student retention. On Coursera, about half of financial aid enrollees and 60% of paid enrollees go on to complete the whole course. There are a wide range of reasons for those who don't complete the course and abandon it. Some are actually good reasons, like, hey, I got what I needed for the first couple modules, and so I'm done and I'm leaving. But others are, I lost motivation, I got stuck on the assignment. And those are barriers that we want to break down. So 3 years ago, we started developing a feature we call in-course help. It's a system of personalized learning interventions designed to support students throughout their learning journey. For example, when a learner first enrolls, she can be encouraged to get started on her learning with compelling statistics, like how much more likely she is to complete if she starts the first video within an hour. As she moves through, we can reinforce her progress, like reiterating the value of incremental learning. When she looks stuck, we can help her get unblocked, like recommending a lecture. Sorry, I jumped ahead a little too quickly. Like recommending the lecture learners like her found most helpful to review after getting stuck on an assignment or not doing particularly well. So different learners benefit from different messages, and an explore-exploit machine learning system helps us tailor each learner's experience. We start with a pool of potential message variants. Getting started nudges are one, review material are another, each of which has several flavors and hundreds or even thousands of places where it might appear. We send all of these through a message level model, which decides which interventions are even worth including in the product. From there, we take each message by learner combination, and with some probability, we send it through the learner level model, a deep learning algorithm that incorporates behavioral features of each learner and characteristics of each message to predict how valuable that particular message will be for that particular learner, and decides, based on the prediction, which messages to serve. With the remaining probability, the message is randomized to send or not. The randomization is designed to ensure that we have an ongoing source of fresh and unbiased training data. For each of the nearly 100 million interventions we've served, we observe whether or not the learner engages with the intervention, whether she reports the intervention was helpful, and what impact it has on her learning outcomes. The data then feeds back into the models so that we're better targeting interventions and developing more useful interventions for learners going forward. In some cases, we also use machine learning to generate the messages themselves. Take the case of a learner struggling with an exam. We want to automatically recommend, for each question she got wrong, the best material to review. To start, we collect training data from instructors, asking them to tag the best review content by question. Of the more than 300,000 questions on the platform, about 5% are tagged with review materials by instructors. These tags provide the source of truth to predict the best review material for the 95% of questions that haven't been tagged. On the left, you see what a learner would experience after getting the question wrong. And on the right, we see the sort of the illustration of a review that we might sort of suggest. Features of the model include text similarity features, like the semantic similarity between the question and the material, and behavioral features, like the share of learners who failed the assessment question and then reviewed that material who ultimately went on to pass. When we show the suggested review, we also ask learners to directly whether the material was useful. So you may see that little, is this helpful or not right there. And we use this feedback to adjust our predictions so that the quality of our suggested review material gets better over time. At Coursera, we're personalizing learning inventions like these that are driving double-digit improvements in student retention, progression, and completion, breaking down barriers and supporting each student with the behavioral and pedagogical support they need throughout their learning experience. And this opportunity isn't just in education. So I want to paint this picture of how you might take this home to you. In healthcare, less than half of Americans follow doctor's orders in taking prescription medicine. In personal finance, a third have saved less than $5,000 for retirement. By building personalized intervention systems, be it in education, in healthcare, or in personal finance and beyond, we can begin to better support each individual in making the best decisions for their future self. While fully automated interventions are in many cases sufficient to support learners, once in a while, we can all benefit from the support of another human. Imagine how hard it must be to be an online degree student, the vast majority of whom are juggling work and family and layering on top a full diploma-bearing degree program. A little extra human support, whether an encouraging word from a counselor or technical help from a TA, can make a big difference in the seemingly impossible situation that degree learner might find themselves in, and make that impossible situation feel possible. Of course, to provide that human touch while still keeping the degree programs accessible and price point, we need to make sure support staff are super efficient. That's why we developed the student support dashboard for our degree programs. The dashboard identifies on-campus support staff, and it identifies for them which students are in need of the most help and provides evidence for the type of human interaction that is likely to be most effective. The underlying prediction tasks are unique in some ways. For example, we have to handle a wide range of different course structures, so we train course-specific models. We also have to solve the cold start problem, generating predictions for never-before-offered courses, and then sort of dynamically identifying the representative training sets for those courses. And perhaps most critically, our predictions need to tie directly to human interpretable insights. So let's dig in a bit there. So we use a random forest to predict on each day, each student's final grades in each enrollment. Students who are predicted to have low final grades are flagged as likely to need support. But for these predictions to really accelerate on-campus support staff, we need to identify not just who is likely to need support, but also why, to inform good, high-quality human interventions. To start, our feature engineering focuses on student behavior features, which roughly fall into 4 buckets. We choose to focus on student behavior features as opposed to, say, course features or student demographic features, because they are much more actionable. Then, for each learner in the course, we select the subset of features that are most important for their prediction. To understand importance, we permute feature values to the median and observe whether this transformation meaningfully impacts the student's predicted course grade. If it changes the grade estimate by at least 3 percentage points, we assign that enrollment a prediction insight, a human readable explanation of the feature's value and its importance. Here are some examples of the types of insights we show. Student support staff use these as guides for their interventions. For example, consider 2 students, both with a low predicted grade. One had a low predicted grade because that was primarily due to spending little time on the course. This suggests that she will benefit from a counselor checking in and helping them re-engage. The other had a low predicted grade primarily due to performing poorly on the assignments. This suggests that he will benefit from academic support provided by a TA or a tutor. At Coursera, these at-risk models, coupled with their interpretable insights, are helping on-campus support staff serve more students more effectively, and in turn are keeping the cost of degrees low for the students while still providing human support when they most need it. More generally, machine-assisted solutions like these can, in a range of industries, accelerate how humans help other humans, empowering professionals from radiologists to career coaches to spend their time efficiently creating the value that only humans can. So for the last case study, I want to discuss once learners finally get through the learning experience, they're out on the job market and they need proof of their skills. There are a lot of folks out there who have the required skills for open roles, but may not look like a fit based on traditional resume signals, or like where they went to school, or what they majored in, or what jobs they've landed so far. This is only becoming more true as the old learn, do, retire model is dying out, and all of us are increasingly learning throughout our lifetimes and making more and more career changes. And so relying on these traditional resume signals doesn't just create general inefficiencies in the job market, it specifically increases economic inequality and inhibits social mobility because people from less advantaged backgrounds are less likely to have had access to those traditional credentials. That's why the World Economic Forum released this report proclaiming the need for skills as the new currency of the labor market. Included in the report is Coursera's skill scoring offering, one step in the direction of connecting careers through a common and equitable currency of skills. Skill scoring is aimed at creating clearer measures of skills so learners can land jobs that they are a good fit for, given what they're capable of, and so that companies can fill open roles with the right talent, whether it's internally or externally. So to understand skill scoring, let's begin with a primer on Coursera's skills graph. The skills graph has 4 key relationships: skill to skill, our skills taxonomy; skill to learner, our skills benchmarking; skill to content, our skill tagging; and finally, skill to career, our skill sets product for guiding learners to the right content. That may seem like a bit of an alphabet soup, but I'm going to walk you through it in a little bit more detail. So the first key dimension of our skills graph to consider is our skills taxonomy. We have over 40,000 skills tracked across business, technology, and data science. We curate those skills into a taxonomy, and we begin mapping the skills to the content and assessments on the platform by using the textual data in the courses themselves, asking instructors and our tens of millions of learners what skills they're learning in a particular assessment or lecture. We continually work on improving that tagging because it's foundational to our skills benchmarking. That is, once we know what skill or set of skills each assessment tests throughout our content, we can build machine learning models to evaluate the difficulty of assessments and assess the skills proficiency of each learner going through those assessments. So now let's look under the hood a little bit at how skills benchmarking actually works. So first, users attempt assessments on the Coursera platform. These can be multiple choice to programming to peer review. Next, we use our skills tagging to identify which skills that assessment is testing. And we plug these into our algorithms to assess the skills proficiency of each learner. These algorithms are outlined in detail in an external white paper we have, but I'll give the intuitive version very briefly right here. So we consider each assessment attempt to be like a chess match between a learner and the assessment. Our algorithm is actually adapted from chess ranking algorithms. And basically what happens is we come in with an expectation of how hard the question is and how proficient the learner is. And then if the learner has a low score and passes a question with a high score, the learner score goes up a lot because we didn't expect them to pass that question. Conversely, if a learner has a high score and a question has a low score and they pass it, the learner score won't go up very much because we sort of expected them to be able to pass it. So over time, as learners take more and more assessments and assessments get taken by more and more learners, we become increasingly confident with the precision of how difficult an assessment is or how proficient a learner is in a particular skill. So once we have those learner skill scores, we know a fair amount of information about our learners. For example, what country they reside in, what company they work for, and what industry that company is in. This allows us to take the collection of learners in each group and aggregate their scores to get a group score. These scores power everything from our annual global skills report, which is flagged in my virtual background. I encourage you to check it out. And our in-product skills benchmarking that lets companies see how they stack up against their competitors. So any labor economist will tell you we pursue education for 2 reasons. The first is to develop our human capital, that is our skills. And that's what the personalized intervention system and the interpretable at-risk model are really aimed at supporting. And the second is to signal our ability. So to credibly show the current and potential future value to employers of how productive we will be so that we can realize our full potential on the job. And that's what skill scoring is really designed to support, whether it's within organizations or just for individual learners. So with that overview of the value that data science can create in industry, specifically in the context of Coursera, I want to hand it over to my colleague to discuss the evolution of workplace learning and how companies can operationalize some of these things at scale in their own business.
Thank you so much, Eric. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us today. I will be walking, as I rightly mentioned, so I'll be walking all of us through, from Coursera's perspective, what are we seeing as an evolution in the workplace learning. I'll share some stories, I'll share some examples around that, and I'll try to keep the last 10 minutes for some questions you might have. So we have been informed that you can use chat window to send your questions to us, so we'll be happy to take care of that. All right, so let's jump to the next one. And Eric, thank you so much for walking us through how we collect data and how we actually make sense of all the data at Coursera. So that was very helpful. I'm sure there are some questions coming your way. Happy to see, and I have some, so we can certainly internally discuss more about that. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about from a Coursera's point of view, what is the evolution we are seeing in the workplace learning. So let's take a quick walk down the memory lane. So what has been happening and what we are seeing is going to happen and is currently happening for that matter. Quickly, if I talk about how workplace learning has been happening, open learning has been really important to many employers for many years. The employers, the learning leaders or administrators, they're very keen in understanding how much does it cost for me to actually train an employee, how many courses they complete. We are not still, open learning is, where as an employee, I have an option. So this reminds me of my days when I used to work for companies like Accenture, Tata's in India, across the globe, wherein we will have a bouquet of options available to us. We can go to our learning management system. I have a choice to choose what I want to learn. It may or may not necessarily help me build the competencies, skills I need to be more successful in my given current role or my future role, which I'm aspiring to be in. This model has been all about aggregating a whole lot of learning content, give it to employees, learners, and then let them choose what they are comfortable with. For many years, it has been popular. This is also popular even today in many positions. And right, so because we cannot just do away with it, we always need to have an access to open catalog, and not always we, as learning administrator, we can be very prescriptive in what people should be learning. So open learning is going to stay, but the share of open learning will continue to come down, because as companies, as individuals learn that, open learning is great, but then it is not necessarily moving the needle of productivity for the exact reasons why we offer learning opportunities to our employees. So Eric did speak about, labor economics, but if I talk more from organizations perspective, for-profit organizations perspectives, companies will offer learning opportunities to its employees, to its different stakeholders, primarily to enhance their productivity in their current role or in their future role, or prepare them for those future roles. So open learning, as I said, has been around, will continue to be around, but the share of open learning might come down. So what's the second thing which is going on? So for many years, what I have also seen, and some of you who have also experienced, and most of you in fact would have experienced, is something called as a guided learning. Now, guided learning is primarily where you have a structured learning program. We have all seen this in terms of something called as a HIPO program, high potential employees. So companies will identify, okay, these are the people who have been more promising, so let me put them in a fast track career development program. Let me put them through a guided learning program, which is very well structured. So the key metric is how many courses you have completed, what are the learnings you have achieved, what is the grade you have achieved. Now, this could be within the organization, this could be on campus. So you tie up with different universities, do you tie up with different training institutions, and then you put your employees either in a full-time or a part-time learning program, which could be delivered obviously digitally, which could also be delivered in person, and so on and so forth. So that's guided learning. Now, this reminded me of the days, when, as I said, one is the high potential employees. The another use case has for guided learning been, especially after the performance appraisal cycles, the managers would have to make some recommendations to the employees based on their performance rating. So people who have achieved better than their expected, OKRs or objectives and key results, they'll be given learning opportunities to enhance their skill sets to a next level of proficiency. People who have not been able to deliver or work, or deliver those key result areas which they were expected in that particular performance appraisal cycle, they will be given some remedial learning opportunities. Now it could be if I'm not doing something great, let's say in a portion of the sales process, so I'll be assigned a sales specific learning so that this is a remedial process. So those are guided learnings. Now these guided learning programs have been very popular again, just like open learning, but then the share of guided learning is also, as a company, we are seeing is coming down for a reason, primarily because many companies, employees, HRs, learning leaders, they are now asking a question. They have been asking a question that what's the return on the investment? So is it really moving the needle on productivity for my employees or profitability as a business unit or as an organization? So now we are seeing more and more companies coming back, learners coming back and saying, while open learning is great, I can pursue my interest. Guided learning is great because it can tie off directly to my competencies or probably remedial or just an incentive to upskill my skill sets in a particular area. Now, more and more companies, employers are coming and looking at, can we actually have skills first learning? Because, now that, we have worked significantly on competency frameworks, we identified the skills which are required by individuals or teams to be successful in their different roles and projects. So the research has also given us that these are the skills people need to be successful in their roles. So can we actually pick up a learning opportunity or a learning intervention which helps people build on those skills? So that's the skills first learning, where the workplace learning from our perspective is moving based on our research, based on our conversations with prospects, with existing clients. So quickly, I know that I covered a whole lot on this slide. So quickly, what we have seen, open learning has transitioned to guided learning, and all of these things coexist. And then it has now transitioned to or made the segue for skills first learning. Open learning has its pros and cons. Guided learning has its pros and cons, and skills first learning obviously has its advantages. We are also trying to figure out what could be probably the drawbacks of skills first learning, because the world is actually asking for can you actually help me pick up the relevant skills which I need to be successful in these roles. From a metric perspective, a quick comparison would be when you're looking at skills first learning, you're looking at what the skills developed. And then, Eric did mention in his presentation that, how actually Coursera will help you determine the level of proficiency for different learners across geographies, across job roles. Because what we understand is, to you, it's more important to understand how many skills at what level of proficiency my people have developed. And probably another metric which many companies are asking us is the time to skill. So if I have to train, let's say, somebody to be expert in artificial intelligence, because I need people with artificial intelligence or cybersecurity as a skill in my team, so how much time would they need to reach that particular level of proficiency? So that's a metric. So this is very different from what was happening in the guided learning world or in the open learning world. But as I said, not everything we feel is going to be skills first. We will certainly have an open catalog access, because if I as an individual, Sorabh, might have interest in learning a little bit about music, then open learning is something for me. So you give them an option as an open catalog. You also create some guided learning depending on what are you trying to achieve, but you also give them a whole lot of opportunity to develop skills which they need. Let them choose the skills they want to develop and to what level of proficiency. Now, how do we enable that journey? So we'll be spending time today to work on that. As a company, how do we enable that? And as a platform, how do we actually help you measure and enable that? So moving on, this is just a validation of when I say that people are getting more and more interested in skills first learning. So a quick survey conducted to understand what would people prefer when they earn a certificate. Would they be looking at completion certificates, or are they more interested in skills developed? So you can see on your slide, there are two charts. One is the respondents were program administrators, and another was respondents were the learners themselves. Now, both categories or both type of respondents actually preferred skills developed. So that's why my previous slide was focused more on that the evolution is towards skills first learning. So and this has been substantiated by this particular quick survey, which tells us that both administrators, these are the learning leaders, these are the L&D managers, CXOs, business managers, and then there are learners, which are usually the employees. And they're saying both the categories are saying that they would want skills to be developed as a result of a learning intervention and not necessarily the courses completed, because there is not much significant correlation between the courses you have completed and necessarily your productivity. But there is certainly a whole lot of correlation between the skills you have developed and how productive you are at work. So that's why people are now shifting towards skills first learning. Moving on, as I said, so my agenda today would be to walk all of us through how Coursera is actually enabling skills first learning. So we have created something called as Academies, what you see on my screen here, and I'll speak a little bit about Academies, and then what are the building components or building blocks of Academies, which are skills. So I'll speak about those. But how do we enable those in the platform? So there are certainly, we have an understanding of in-demand skills. And how do we get that? There is a whole lot of data which is available to Coursera, given that there are 80 million plus learners. If you reflect from Eric's web slides which he was sharing, there are 82 million plus learners on Coursera platform, and these learners, many of these learners are actually working professionals, working in different geographies, industries, job roles, and functions. So all of that data, we actually are able to make sense and say, okay, by job role, by industry, by function, these are the skills people are picking up, and this is the proficiency at which they are picking up. So we can bring all that information to help you to define in-demand skills. And obviously you have your own competency frameworks. You have a whole lot of research which actually is indicating that these are the skills by function, by role, are required to be successful in the jobs. Then, in order to build those skills, where is the content coming from? What we also understand is if we have to develop skills, we actually have to go through a learning program. Now, in a learning program, we understand that there has to be some structured content, some assessments. Now, where are these structured content and assessments coming from? Now, all of this is coming from various universities across the globe, various companies across the globe, which are actually developing and investing significantly in the technologies, companies like IBM, companies like AWS. Then there are consulting companies like BCG who author content on Coursera. And then while we understand that online learning, we can deliver content, we can deliver assessments, but then given that we are talking about building digital skills, how do we enable learners pick up the digital skills, not just by watching some videos or answering some quizzes, but actually working on these technologies, software packages digitally. So that's where we call it as a hands-on learning. And I'll be spending some time towards the end of this presentation to walk you through what is hands-on learning, how we are enabling it. A quick answer to that is, if you're curious, we create actually virtual machines which are accessible through browser, and people are able to then interact with the softwares. So they are not just watching some videos, but they're actually interacting with softwares real time and following the steps either from instruction in live, in a asynchronous fashion, or based on what they have learned from a lab sandboxing perspective. So I'll spend a little more time on that. And then lastly, it's not just important that we deliver these courses, we conduct assessments and give you a grade, but the idea is that can we help you determine and understand the level of proficiency to which your learners have actually picked up. You as an individual, or if you're an employer, your learners have picked up these skills at so from a measurement and actionable insights perspective. And thanks to Eric, he actually walked you through how we collect all that data and then how we actually build those skill taxonomies, skill proficiencies, and report it out to our partners and customers. So moving on, let's double click on each of these. I know that I covered a whole lot again on this slide. There are academies, there are in-demand skills, there are world-class content, there is hands-on learning, and then there is measurement and actionable insights. Let's take a look at each of these aspects individually, and then you might have some questions towards the end. So to determine that, I brought an example. So this is an example of engineering function in a company, which is primarily IT function, if I may. And you can see that there is an IT support help desk, system admins, internal applications. This is usually an org structure of a technology team or an IT team in an organization. It could be government, it could be business, even it could be a university system, if you may consider that. So there is a security, obviously, as we understand that security, digital security is even more important while physical is. So digital security is becoming more and more important, has been around for some time. Infrastructure, then various product lines you might have, and then obviously there is a digital marketing and web team. Now, if the leader, the CTO in this case, or chief architecture, or whatever the title you use, is actually going to work with the L&D team, it's a Herculean task to determine how do we structure a learning program for each of these functions, first of all, within the department, or each of these work streams. And then I'm not still talking about at an individual level. So, when you start double clicking, you will say, okay, while I have DevOps, but I have senior guys in the DevOps, I also have, junior guys in the DevOps. While if I talk about front-end engineering, I have some leading, experienced engineers, but I also have some fresh rookies in my mobile engineering and backend engineering as well. So how do we actually create a learning opportunity for all of these? That's where Coursera's skill sets and academies come in handy. So these are pre-curated, pre-structured learning programs or learning journeys, which actually can be customized at an individual level. So let's take a look at that, what I'm talking about. So what I'm saying is, for each of this role, let's say if you have an IT help desk role, for an IT help desk role, there is a skill set. So you will actually see a skill set named as a systems admin, IT systems admin as a skill set. Based on the information we have received and the data crunching we have done, as I said, we understand that a system admin usually needs to have these skill sets at this level of proficiency. So we bring that learning, we bring that skill set, which is actually a list of skills needed by individuals and at what level of proficiency, the target level of proficiency, and then give it to your system admins, or give it to your internal applications, or give it to your network security folks, give it to your data services by role, by function. And then while they all will have the same target, if let's say if Sorabh and Eric are interested in becoming application security specialists, so while we both might have the same target, but our journey to achieve that level of proficiency will differ, because these skill sets are actually AI driven, machine learning driven. So there is an algorithm, so which will keep picking that. Okay, so now Sorabh wants to be, let's say, application security specialist. This is the level of proficiency he should have. And based on all my learning previously I have done on Coursera, my skill proficiency is already in the system. So it'll pick up that this is where Sorabh's current level of proficiency is. Now, Sorabh doesn't have to go through a fixed program like usually a guided learning would have done. Now, Sorabh actually can start his journey ahead of somebody or behind somebody, depending on what are the current level of proficiency across employees, and then reach that target at his own pace, and his journey to that. By journey, I mean is the courses I will have to complete will vary, because based on my score, based on my pace, based on my interest, or in general my persona, if I may use that term. So let's see, what I mean by a little bit more detail on skill sets. So, and as an example, this is a skill set of a software engineer. Now, what you see on the right hand side is actually skill set. First, the list of skills. So somebody who wants to be a software engineer and want to be successful, he or she would need security engineering, computer programming, mobile development, software engineering, and then theoretical computer science. So these are the high-level skills, or a aggregation of skills which they will need. And obviously under security engineering, you will have the next level of skills. Under mobile development, you will have next level of skills. But usually speaking, rolled up view of skills is you need security engineering, you need computer programming, you need mobile development, software engineering, theoretical computer science. And there are targets. Now, in a guided learning program, the disadvantage, if I may use the term, is that we have to actually enforce everybody to go through that entire program. But many of the learners will come back and say that this is too easy for me, I have already done that. But skill sets will, as I said, will already determine where you currently sit. So I might be sitting at a score of, let's say, 100 already on computer programming. So I just need to cover that 51. I don't have to go through all of the rest of the training. So these course recommendations, which you see under this skill set, will differ for each individual. So skill sets, in short, is individualized learning journey, automated learning journey for individuals to achieve a predetermined level of proficiency. Now, you might have some questions around Sorabh. Our people need different level of skills, probably different level of proficiencies. This may differ from your current in the product package. Absolutely, we understand that, and these are customizable factors. So we can work with your IT team, L&D team. We can work with your business managers and understand what are the levels of proficiencies they need, what are the levels of skills they need in the skill sets, and accordingly, these can be tailored, fit for your organization, for department, even for individual. So that's the power skill sets bring to you. Now, what kind of skill sets which are available? So skill sets, just a quick summary of the slide. Skill sets are for role. Then skill sets include target proficiency for each rolled up view of the skill. And these are then delivered using world-class content, which is actually coming from leading universities and organizations currently offering content on Coursera. Then we enable hands-on learning through guided projects, which I'll get into details in a bit. And you can see that you don't have to worry. So one another feature, if you recollect from Eric's discussion, we continue to add content on the platform. So in a guided learning program, let's say if you ask me, Sorry, can you create a guided learning program for cybersecurity? We will do that for you, but then that's a static program. Now, what if there is a great content from Palo Alto which has come in, which was not already included, or there is a great content from a new company, or a new author authoring content on Coursera, which has come in, and it's great. So there is a lot of manual effort of retrofitting the content into a guided learning process. However, skill sets will actually make recommendations, real-time recommendations based on all the content available on Coursera's platform, or all the content which your license allows you to access. So absolutely, you don't have to worry about, do I have to reorganize content? Do I have to put them in a different order? The machine will take care of it for you. So at an individual level, it will take care. So you don't have to worry about it in a sense. Then if you look at where is the content coming from, so you can see that in real time, as your learners will actually go through these assessments courses, their scores will keep getting updated. So there is a real-time view in how their skills are getting developed, is also visible to administrators. Then all of these information, that how much they are currently on, this will enable, as I said, which course I do next. So based on my score, based on my previous proficiencies, my next recommended course will differ from probably my colleagues or my other cohort members. Then obviously you can see that, given that there is all set of data available, so you can see at a group level that, as a group where you have reached, and then these are the leaderboards. You can see how much progress people have made, how much skills they have developed, even at an individual level. So all of this information is available at a skill development level to you at a group level, at a function level, or at an organization level. So our teams can help you to structure those programs at different stages. All right, so what kind of skills we can help you develop? Obviously, there is a whole lot of use case of data and analytics academy. Now, academy is actually a collection of skill sets. So all the roles, you will want to prepare people on, let's say, data engineer, data scientist, or AWS machine learning specialist. Those kind of roles will fit into data and analytics academy. So as I said, academy is actually collection of skill sets. Then there is Cloud and IT Academy, wherein you will have roles housed around cloud computing, cloud engineering, cloud security, and so on and so forth. Then you have software engineering, then you have marketing, and then you have finance. In finance, you will have accounting. Marketing, you will have digital marketing, analog marketing kind of roles set up there. So you can take an academy, apply it to a function. You can take multiple academies, apply it to a function. You can take a skill set and apply across functions. All of these combinations are possible. The idea is that, can we enable a learning journey for individuals by role, by job function, and by level of proficiency you expect them to do. And that's where Coursera skill sets come in handy. Now, a quick review and reminder on where the content is coming from. The content on Coursera is currently coming from top 160 universities. Just to give an instance, the top 10 of the top 20, half of the top 20 B schools as per FT Global Rankings, author content on Coursera currently, half of the top 50 engineering colleges or institutions, author content on Coursera, and these were ranked by DHE. And in addition to these university partners, we have industry partners, as I said, like IBM, Intel, Palo Alto. They author content on Coursera, including consulting companies like PCG. That's where the content is coming from. These are all verifiable credentials. There is a pedagogy which goes beyond. So one of the key differentiator, why do we choose to work with only these companies or partners or these kind of companies and partners, is because they follow a particular pedagogy. The idea is that on Coursera, when learners come to learn, they're not just watching some videos and answering some quizzes to get certificates, but learners have an opportunity to learn, practice, and apply the skill sets. I'm very happy to share also with you that on Coursera, you will find that people actually get an opportunity to complete capstones or applied learning projects, so that, as I said, they're not just watching videos and answering quizzes, but they're actually applying these skills on real-time world problems. Now, there are 500 plus capstones and applied learning projects available on Coursera across different academic disciplines. There are 11 academic disciplines around which you have content on Coursera. Moving on. So now, as I said, it's not just about watching videos. It's not just about answering some quizzes, but it's also a whole lot about practicing those skills, and that's where Coursera Labs come in handy. So what you see on this slide is Coursera Labs actually enables two broad use cases: guided projects and lab assignments. I'll speak about guided projects more because that's where we have seen a whole lot of traction. Bite-sized learning. I'm currently in the workflow. I want to figure out, how I can do this thing in Python. And I'm not just watching a video, but I'm actually practicing it in a safe environment. So I'll focus more on GPs. In interest of time, if somebody's interested, we'll be very happy to set up separate time and walk you through lab assignments. But let me quickly go and talk about, what a guided project looks like. So from an infra perspective, this is how we can actually create. So we create cloud infrastructure, which are Windows and Linux-based desktops, virtual desktops. So the GPU, CPU is taken care of by Coursera. We also add a whole lot of real-time or real-world tools. From a learner experience perspective, they will have a guided project and a lab assignment, and even a lab sandboxing where you are not necessarily graded, but you have an opportunity to actually practice on those tools. Lab assignments will be more from a grading perspective as well. Now, this is an example of a guided project. This is usually 1 to 2 hours. A quick comparison, a Coursera course will be approximately 15 hours of learning, which includes video lectures, assessments, and so on and so forth, including capstones, as I said, but at a specialization or a professional certificate level. A guided project is another unit of learning on Coursera to address a very specific requirement. Bite-sized learning to help people solve daily life tool-specific challenges. Now, let's say this is an example of Tableau, but first of all, what you see is a screenshot of a browser. So neither the instructor nor the learner has downloaded Tableau locally on their machines. These are accessible to both learner and to the instructor from their browser digitally, virtually. And on the right-hand side, what you see, a smaller window, is where an instruction is going on. The steps are being told by an instructor. And on the left-hand side, I, as a learner, have an access to Tableau, and I'm just following the steps which I'm being told in real time in the platform. So I'm not just learning something now and then going to a different screen. So everything is happening in the same screen. Now, you might be thinking, Sorry, this is possible even today. I can go to YouTube and then I can go to my software and try to do those things. Absolutely, you can. But then what we are trying to solve for is that the flow of learning is not broken, because what a whole lot of data, a whole lot of behavioral science is telling us that, when you toggle screens, our flow of learning breaks and our learning may so something might fall through the cracks. So how do we solve that? We solve that by actually giving you a platform which allows you to take the instructions and apply the instructions in the same window and by the way, both of them have the same, because this is virtual machine. So both of the learner and the instructor have the same version of the tool also. So you might be learning Tableau, but there is a version X and you might be using version Y, so your features may vary. That's not going to happen with guided projects. So there are currently 2,000 plus guided projects on Coursera, and we are building that catalog aggressively. But and this is primarily to help people pick up, how do I do this in R? How do I do that in Python? How do I work on Power BI? How do I do something on Tableau? Or even from an academic interest perspective, how do I do a bibliometric citations using XYZ tool, or how do I use this feature of SAS? So those kind of in the work questions which crop up, and that's Coursera's way of addressing, helping individuals, organizations pick up the skills in bite-sized learning and solve those immediate tool-specific challenges. So that's from guided projects perspective. Then lastly, a whole lot of data enables us to report a whole lot of information back to you in form of skills developed, in form of assessments completed, scores, and so on and so forth, at an individual level, at an org level, at a group level. So I know that I covered a lot. So a quick reminder before we go back to our moderators and ask for questions. What we covered was primarily around there are three types of learning: open learning, guided learning, skills first learning. What we are seeing, whole world is moving towards skills first learning because there is a whole lot of thrust from employers and administrators towards skills first learning. And there are advantages, as we can clearly see, because it can help you move the needle on the productivity. How do we enable skills first learning? At Coursera, we have academies. Academies are a collection of skill sets. Skill sets are learning programs by role, by job function. So we can activate those skill sets at an individual level. Each of the individual will have while the target is same, but each of the individual will have a different learning journey to that target based on previous learning, based on their way of learning and persona. And then while they do that, all of that content which they use to develop those skills is coming from leading institutions and organizations. And then they don't have an opportunity just to learn skills by watching videos, but also by doing a whole lot of hands-on practices. So, and then while as an administrator, you will have a whole lot of visibility in the data, where they are, how much skills they have developed, and so on and so forth. So that's from me. I'm gonna hand back to Kenny and see if there are some questions we can answer. Let me check the chat as well.
So it looks like we have one on the structure of our data science team. So it says the question is, may we know the structure of your team? Who helps advance this algorithm in the Coursera platform? Course manager, data scientist, educator, etc. Do we do this all in-house? So this is a great question. And I actually cut some slides about this. So I'm just gonna share my screen and give you like a minute of those slides. Or maybe I won't succeed at sharing my screen, but there we go. Okay, so we're sort of often asked, like, what skills does a data science team need? And so in general, like, the mission of a data science team should be to create value from data. But if you've never seen sort of a hierarchy of data needs before, there's a standard one we use at Coursera. So let me briefly cover this framework about how we create sort of value from data. So at the bottom of this pyramid is data infrastructure. This is managing data efficiently at scale. One level up is analytics, which is sort of basically reporting and counting the right things if you want to distill it. Above that is decision science, which is sort of counting things to inform quantitative or automated decision-making, making the right decisions with the right data. And then near the top is machine learning, which is a lot like decision science, but with sort of a feedback loop where we're learning and we're sort of creating more intelligent models. And so how does all of this work? So at Coursera, it's evolved over time. We started as a startup, and at the beginning, it was just whoever does everything. But as we grew and evolved, there was a lot more specialization that arose. And so we've sort of subsequently split up into three functions. So we have a unified data organization at Coursera. And within this organization, we sort of build all of these data products, and we have these three functions. So data engineering is focused on the data collection, curation, standardization, and sharing, plus the self-serve analytics at Coursera. And decision science is a group of data scientists focused on getting insights to inform product and business decisions. The team defines our metrics and then applies inference, experimentation, and prediction on top of that. And finally, the machine learning group is focused on building the models and algorithms that directly power our products, marketing, and services. So to go to the example of the skill scoring algorithm in our product, it's a combined effort on the data team and across the company to build it. So we build the whole thing in-house. Our machine learning scientists are focused on sort of building and maintaining the skill scoring algorithm. Our data engineers make sure they have the foundational data to build that algorithm on top of. And our decision scientists watch learners sort of see skill scores and get recommendations and make sure that the algorithm is performing the way we want it to and that we're recommending the right course to the right learner at the right time. Of course, it's not just the unified data org that builds this. We also have software engineers and designers and product managers who sort of bring it to market. And so while I'm focused on the data side of things, there's obviously a broader team that builds those products. So hopefully that helps. Apparently, that's the only question we have. So that's too bad, but I'm glad I had slides prepared for our one question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andy.